Rolled hems on curves. Not talked about too much in my explorations because they're a bit harder than just doing it on a straight hem. Now, a curved rolled hem, it's going to look beautiful. It's going to look smooth and even and tiny and perfect. And that's why we like them. But they don't always turn out like that. And I'm going through some real common bad stuff and showing you with my white one how to fix it. Your rolled hem foot is this Duvalaki. It kind of looks like a spirally thing, maybe like a pencil sharpener, but nothing is sharp in there. It's just a spiral because it's going to turn your material into a full turn. So this is what it's looking like. It can be a large one. This one's a small one. Now, the problem with any circular cut skirt is that you do not have an end where you can get it on into the spiral. It's a circle. It has no edge. So how do we do this? And at the moment, this is not going in very well. I'm getting one turn, but it should be turned twice. So how do you get it on? I'm giving up at this stage. But here's how you do it. So you can see this is a circle without an end. This is what I mean when it's a circle and where do you start? It goes forever. How I do this, I crease up one time because you're going to have a full turn. You do it the second time. As minimum amount as you can get away with, that your fingers will cope with. And then we hold that quasi turn up and we just lever it back and forth until it slips into that spiral. So it's in there right now. And then we can put our foot down and we're ready to start sewing. With any start, we will do a forward and a back stitch to secure. And I hold that turn under so that it just feeds nicely into the foot, the rolled hem foot. And there we go. We can now sew. And we've started on a curve. Problem number 2, it's a circle. And that means there will be a seam somewhere, at least one. So this is my first attempt. I actually have trimmed my seam down, but I didn't do it enough, and you're going to see what's going to happen. I am going to struggle with the bulk of that seam trying to work itself into the rolled hem foot, a spiral, turn under, and I'm pulling it now. I'm pulling it to get it through. So I lift it up, pulled it through, and I've just made it work and just made it keep on going. It's not the ideal way to do it, let me tell you. When you force something, even for a small amount, it will show up in your work. Okay, so I'm lifting up and I'm just going to keep on going now. I've got the bulk of the seam overcome, skipped over maybe, and we're going to keep on going. Dum, 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 dum. Let's look at it. Now, I told you it wasn't going to be ideal. And it isn't. You can see it's bulgy. It's not consistent. There may even be some missing sections of stitches, which you can fix. It's okay on the outside. A pragmatic fix is okay, but it's not perfect like that. Now let's have a look at something else that might happen. In this seam, I got it stuck. The seam allowance is actually stuck over the prong of that foot. So I'm, again, just trying to poke it under there so that it can progress. Seams are tricky, guys. You've got to cut down the bulk. And I'm about to show you how to do that, but let's keep watching this battle that I had because I haven't done rolled hems for a few years. I did make it work. It wasn't the prettiest, Am I going to force it through again? Yeah. I'm lifting up and I'm pulling. You saw that little jerk. Okay, that was my material just pulling and jerking. So there's going to be some skipped stitches that I created because I had to pull it through artificially. It's not the be all and end all. Don't worry if you've made this mistake. But this is what it's going to look like. Okay, you can see the tiny little close stitches where it's working hard to try and get through. The bulk can't get through. And it's just a bit lumpy. It's really not perfect. But this one, we can get it better. So let's give it a go. Here's my solution. We've got a curve. It's a full circle skirt and it's in miniature, so it's going to be even harder. If I can do it on the harder thing, there's hope. So I've just done my 2 little turn-ups to simulate how much I need to trim off that seam. And this is the trick. You have to trim off enough. And the trimming off needs to be really close to that stitch line. Whether you've done it on the sewing machine or you've got this overlocking stuff, close down to the stitch line and sufficient so you can get 2 turns. Then we go to the sewing machine and we will backstitch and stitch down that stitch line so that it is secured. We don't want that seam unraveling. So that's step number 2. We firstly trim, we secondly reinforce. And now we'll be ready to have less bulk to turn into that spiral. Okay, so that's what it's looking like. Trim up, of course. We don't want any little threads to, stuff us up, and switch back to your rolled hem foot. You probably could have done it, maybe not switching. You maybe could have done that little bit of stitching with the rolled hem foot and just not used the rolled function, probably, but I did change my feet, and as always, I run my threads behind. Okay, so here we're going to test it. I've got my rolling happening. Here is my seam. Let's see how we go with the reduced seam bulk. Tuck it under. I always keep a little quasi fold going on so it feeds nicely, especially with a tiny little seam like this, a tiny little hem like this. Here we go. This is the proof of the pudding. Is it going to just go through and feed through, or am I going to be forcing stuff to make it work? I think it's going well, guys. This is the answer. Look at that. It just fed on through. I've caught that seam nicely. That is what you want to achieve. It's sewn into the hem. So we gauged the amount we had to trim off well. You can't tell from the outside or the inside. How do I live with errors? Okay, this is kind of important because if you're like me and you don't like doing practice projects, you want to go to the real thing, choose a petticoat or a slip where it's not going to get seen. This is what's going on here. So this is me going over the bulky seam part of the rolled hem. And I hadn't trimmed it off enough. What I'm doing is going over with a regular foot now, and I'm just going over the same line of stitching. And what that does is it evens it out, it presses it down and makes it not bulky, and it secures any of those skipped stitches. So I hope this encourages you, if you're a learner like me, or you're just rusty like me, and you don't like doing practice projects, you can do it on a petticoat. How to close a circle with a rolled hem. This bit, man, I was told just roll on off the rolled hem, but I don't know about that. So I'm trying to roll on off, but not quite sure how I'm going to get off the roll, because doesn't it perpetually spiral and perpetually flip up that rolled hem? So I'm poking it down with my quick unpick to manually get it out of that spiral so it stops rolling. And that was the only way I could think of to roll on off the rolled hem. These are people, I think, who teach only on straight surfaces. Anyway, circles, no end, okay? We're a continuous loop. So I've got it off and I'm just going to stitch straight now across the end of that hem. But I'm not really liking it. It's still got a twist in it when I came off. I'm not quite sure what to do about that, to be honest. So I did go and research it a little bit more, had a think, and while it's not a complete disaster, I could fix it with the same thing of just like going over it again. And in fact, that's what I ended up doing, just replacing my foot, and did the same how do I live with my mistake stuff, and went over it with that foot with my regular straight stitch, and that flattened it all out. Yay for simple solutions, right? When you're just working on a petticoat. But when you get to the real thing, the real deal, you do want to have this problem sorted out. So that there is your pragmatic fix. You're not demanding perfection, but just making sure it's going to not unravel and be secure. All right, here's how you really do it. As you can see, this is my white version now, and I'm approaching the end of the circle, the beginning of the circle, okay? What I'm going to do is take it off at this point. So I've got just that section of hem left undone. Put my other foot back on. I'm guessing you probably could keep the same foot off and just not roll it, but I've changed my foot. And just that section there, I'm going to manually, with my fingers, hold in the roll. It's not very hard because it's such a small section and the material now is used to rolling up. So I'll just find the spot that I want to stick the needle directly into that seam. There we go. Directly into that line of stitching. Back stitch, of course, to secure. And then my fingers are going to do the work of holding in that roll of the rolled hem. And that's how we loop back to the start in a circular hem with a rolled hem. So just doing the last little section. If you can make that, I guess, the smallest, weirest little bit that you have to manually do, that's probably going to be a good thing. This is what it looks like. Now I do have a little crease there. That's when I rolled on. So clearly I still need work on how to start. But that row of stitching, that's my manual ending stitch. And that's looking perfect. So if I hadn't made the bingle at the start, you wouldn't have that crease. It's still a heck of a lot better than my underskirt one. So I think this is a real winner of a tip to how you end a circular rolled hem. I like this one. So you lost the battle with bobbin chicken? Yeah, I ran out. My bobbin ran out and I only had that last little bit to do. Well, guess what? It's the same solution to fix this as it was to end the circle. So get your normal, or in this one, I haven't even got my normal foot back on. I'm just going to sew directly over, but not, well, no, hang on a minute. I am going to engage the rolled hem feature, but you wouldn't have to. You could use the same technique that we just saw with ending the circle. In this instance, I've carefully threaded it back in and I'm making sure that needle is dead bang on with the seam line. And I obviously have to backstitch to secure. And then it's a matter of just keeping on going with your rolled hem. And obviously you've got to use this one. If you ran out of bobbin, and you still got like 3/4 or half a skirt to do, you really are going to have to use your rolled hem for the rest of it. It's looking pretty good. Let's just trim that up. And we've rescued that. So it's just about starting on the same seam line with your rolled hem foot. Done. Right, hem inconsistencies. Bit of a bugbear. You can see there's a bit of tension. Well, there shouldn't be tension that way or that way. It should be just left to sit, and I tend to drive a little bit to the left, but not all the way to the left. Okay, the little left lean helps things to roll into the rolled hem foot. Just don't overcrank it. So you can see my middle fingers here are just helping that end of the material tuck into the roll. Hem inconsistencies happen usually when you don't have your motor skills in. If I crank it all the way over there, you'll see that I'm going to make a large bit of material go into that little spiral foot. And that's going to double fold it, and it's going to not to be happy or pleasant, okay? We're going to get creases there. So we don't want to crank it all the way to the left. If I take it back to the first skirt that I did when I was getting my hands back in, you can see that my hand position's different. I'm using one hand and that middle finger, which is band-aided and it's not helping things, to hold the roll. Okay, that middle band-aided finger is just tucking the roll in, and the other hand is behind. Now, when you do it like that, it's different to the other one that I showed you. I had my hands sorted out. One was beside it and one was doing the pre-roll. But when you have one behind and one in front, the temptation is that you will pull or unconsciously get some kind of inconsistency in the tension, and that's when your waves can happen in your hem. It can go wavy. So a little bit of consistency with your hem is getting your hands in, getting your motor skills happy, and letting your body go, yeah, this is fine, I can do this. Some of it also, well, let's look at what happens when I try and feed too much in. So I did do that on the petticoat, the slip as well. You can see how fat that is, and it will go in, but it's going to look like that. That's what I mean about getting some folds in there, because you're trying to stick too much into a small spiral. The other thing can happen as well. You can undercook it, so not roll in enough. And then this is frustrating. This happens because you lost attention, usually, okay? There's a lot of sewing in a rolled hem for a circular garment, and you need to be fresh and you need to be paying attention as well as have your motor skills in. This is what my grandma taught me to do when I undercooked it. She said, get the quick unpick, poke the roll back in there, and keep on going. Okay, so I'm just tucking in that recalcitrant bit of roll because there wasn't enough fabric, and I'll try and get back onto smooth sailing. Just keep on going. It'll be okay. Now I will show you what things look like. See, I'm still poking along with my quick unpick just to get back onto that smooth sewing. When it's going well, it looks like this. It looks really beautiful. When I overcook it, you can see there's a bit of fray coming out. I've got a couple of folds in there because I tried to put too much into my spiral. You can get bigger rolled hem feet, by the way. That is a nice rolled hem. Paying attention. And decent motor skills. And it's ironed. Okay, so all of those things can help you with your rolled hem. And that brings us to the end of the video. I really hope that you learned something. Tell me what your favourite thing was that you learned today. Tell me what question you have that I didn't cover. Enjoy your comfy life. Next time we're going to go into some tops. I realise it's summertime over here and I don't have enough tops. So we're going to go into some tops. Again, enjoy your comfy life. subscribe. You can just click on my face right now. And I'll see you next time.